All right, in this video, I'm going to show you everything I've learned from an unsuccessful launch that I did recently. So I'm going to show you what worked, what didn't work, what I did, and what I learned along the way so you can avoid my mistakes. I've been learning a lot along the way, and I've been starting my entrepreneurial journey as of 2 years ago. And as of the past month or so, I've been learning a whole lot. A quote from Thomas J. Watson: "Failure is a teacher, a harsh one, but the best." So the foundations, before I could actually conduct a launch that could generate any results, I needed to establish some business foundations first. And I'm part of a cohort called Synthesizer Scaling, and I have the hat for it. We call it the business backbone. And everything that your business envisions, including your proof, your niche, your offer, and your backstory, resides all in this backbone. It is very important to have this established, having all these foundations in place, or you will spend a ridiculous amount of time trying to go about your business, making content, trying to create funnels and whatnot with very little to no result. So, this is something that I really needed in my own journey to start with. This would have saved me a very long time, thousands of hours, and I probably would have saved thousands of dollars had I established this sooner. I'm going to show you a little sneak peek of what I'm talking about. It describes my own vision. Why am I here? Why am I pursuing this? And it dives into my current problems, my income, my consequences of me not succeeding, my desired situation, desired income, and my mission. I break these down into my vision, and then I also share my proof. So I'm a United States Marine with 6 years of military experience. I also have a bachelor's of science in electronics engineering technology. I overcame online addiction in my early 20s and reduced my screen time down to 2 hours a day consistently. So a lot of this proof that I show you is going to be related to my offer, some indirect as well. I'm just gathering as much proof as I can to show you I am who I say I am. And this would be important for you if you're trying to conduct a launch, because if you're trying to present an offer to someone and they don't know who you are, and they don't know your proof, you don't have authority in this and what you're trying to offer, then no one's going to believe you, no one's going to trust you. So it's important to have that proof. If you don't have proof of your own, I'd highly suggest you to collect some of that proof of your own. Show that you know what you're talking about and have experience along the way. And it's also very important if to stack on the proof that you already have case studies and testimonials of the things that you've done already. Now, I've personally helped several business owners reduce their own screen time. I helped a filmmaker, I helped a school community owner, and I've gotten a pretty large testimonial in my school community, collecting that proof and my niche. So, who I serve and what do they want? So, who I serve solopreneurs, their current situation. They're burnt out from working in front of the computer too long. They can't stay focused, can't maintain a consistent routine, or to pull themselves away from the screen, a constant need to check notifications, doom scroll, and answer emails. And so the problem is they have difficulty balancing work and leisure and digital devices, struggling with maintaining focus, etc. I dive into who I serve, their current situation, their problems, their desires, and who I don't serve. So this is also important. You need to understand who your target audience is, because we're not here to serve everyone. Help the specific people that we can serve with confidence. If your target audience is everyone and anyone, then you're basically targeting no one, right? It's important to dial that in a bit. You don't have to be too specific with your ICP or your avatar to be clear. If you are trying to waste hundreds of hours trying to figure out the exact right ICP, your exact avatar, I honestly think that's not the best approach for a lot of people. It can end up being more confusing than clarifying. And this is also, I wasted a lot of my time trying to figure out the perfect avatar, figure out their exact desires and needs. It's important to have to know a baseline of what their current situation and problems and desires are. But if you are trying to trying to find that exact right person, they're a solopreneur and that they're 23 years old and 6 months and they're living in their mom's basement. Like there's so many things that you just don't need, and you could just leave out so many things. I would just get down to the basics, the foundations first, because ultimately what matters is that you need to go into the market and figure out what these people's problems are and how you can solve them. I have this on a Google Doc, but it's important for me to actually go out into the world and present things to them and like understand like their problems personally so that I can dial things in a bit more. So my offer, what do I offer to my niche? So we break down the outcome, the price, the mechanism, like the unique mechanism, the deliverables, my name of it, the guarantee, and within a launch, you want to have some scarcity and urgency as well. And the backstory, how did you get to where you are now? Breaking down your past situation, past pains, desires, your epiphany, and my current situation. So I go this in pretty big detail, but I can go deeper into that on a later video. But yeah, that is the business backbone. Important to get those foundations in place. So what I've learned, I spent at least 2 years wandering through business without having any foundations in check. Like I mentioned before, it costed me thousands of hours and over $15,000 in mentors, communities, and courses, all because I didn't have my foundations in place. It's imperative to get this down. Otherwise, you'll be spinning your wheels and spending your money on things that you don't really need. And I realized that in the process of establishing my foundations, I spent many months trying to grow my business by not actually growing it. Most of us think we know what we need to do, but it really opened my eyes to see the missing puzzle pieces. This is what a big puzzle piece that I was missing. Get your foundations in check in terms of the launch process. So, when starting your launch, you need to have a few pieces of understanding: who your current network is, your message resonance, and know what problems you're solving. We go into the network audit. So the lowest hanging fruit when conducting a launch are the people you've already networked and connected with in the first place. People think you need to have a large audience before you start a pretty decent launch or a profitable launch, but that's not really the case. If you've lived for 20, 30 years of your life, chances are you've already connected with hundreds of people. You have people in your contacts, your email list, got some sort of audience, maybe have like 100 followers or so on Twitter, X, LinkedIn, Instagram. You have a lot of opportunity to capitalize on the people that you've already connected with. So keep that in mind. So if you've already had past clients, if you've already worked with people, then that's an opportunity. If you have close friends, that's an opportunity. Family, opportunity. Engaged followers on social media, opportunity. Email list, opportunity. You have a lot of people within your disposal, whether you think you have or not. And it made me realize how many connections I've actually had throughout this process. So I gathered a list of people who were my warmest leads, and I exported the CSV file from different sources and put them into a Google spreadsheet. I'm going to show you it right now. So this was my network audit, and it's not completely organized right now because I kind of sorted things out based on who I reached out and followed up with. But ultimately, I ended up with 277, yeah, 277 contacts just from this. And there are people that I haven't reached out to because I felt like they weren't qualified or they didn't fit my offer. And the people that I did reach out to were the people I felt were loosely related to what I could offer them. So these are the people I reached out. And I'm going to show you exactly how I did that. So the people that were my warmest leads, in my opinion, were from my school community email list, or my school community and my Threads followers. So what I did here, I went to my school community called Mental Momentum, and in this here, if you have a school community, then you can export the CSV file here by going to your members tab, and then right here you can get an Excel spreadsheet based on those members. So first name, last name, email, These are the things that I focus on the most, and I'm not going to go too deep into them. We would essentially copy the first and last name, or even the first name, and then get their contact info from there. So it would either put their email on there, and then I would just have it onto the network audit, and we're going to go into my threads followers. So you can do this with multiple social media platforms where you can actually export. You can do the same thing with your followers. For me, I ended up downloading a plugin called Followers Exporter for Thread, and it's not the perfect one, but it was able to extract up to 250 followers from my following for free. If I wanted to extract my whole followers, I'd have to pay for it. So to make it simple for me, I just did the top 250 followers, and then I downloaded the followers. You can export followers right here, and you have to wait a bit, but then you'll be able to put that into your network audit. Trying to organize all your contacts into one network audit so that you could track who it is you're reaching out to, and you could check the box one by one, and say if a few days pass, you could follow up. So that's basically how I did it. And the goal here is to exhaust your warmest leads first before heading over to. You have the highest potential to succeed by going to the people who trust you the most already. That's why we want to go to our warmest leads first. So that's what I did with the network audit by going through everyone I've once connected with before and built rapport with. Second, your message resonance. So your message resonance is a combination of your niche, outcome, proof, and mechanism. So niche resonance would be feels like you're speaking directly to them. That's the goal for that. So outcome resonance. They want the result you deliver. If they can't envision themselves on the other side of the bridge, chances are they're not going to resonate with your offer. Proof resonance. They believe you can deliver it. One thing that a lot of people don't understand with your offer is that it needs to be believable that you can actually deliver it. If you're trying to offer someone, I can scale your business to 8 figures in 3 months when they're already making zero. That's not believable at all. No one's going to believe that. You need to have proof resonance there that they can believe you can deliver it. Make it realistic. And mechanism resonance. They like the way you deliver it. So I like this analogy. If they liked everything from your niche, your outcome, and your proof, say you want to give someone a 6 pack, and there's someone that they're feeling a little fat, they're overweight, and they want to have a 6 pack. That's what they want. That's what their outcome is, and you have the proof that you can give them a 6 pack because you have a 6 pack yourself and you helped other people along the way. But if your mechanism is to inject steroids and work out 20 hours a week and try to get on this Arnold Schwarzenegger program, then they're not going to like that the mechanism. They need to like how you're delivering it. Those are definitely things to think about. So, personal example for me, I did share you a sneak peek about this on my business backbone, but my niche is solopreneurs. The outcome I want to offer is be procrastination without spending hours in front of a screen. My proof is Meridian with 6 years experience. Personally overcame video game and social media addiction without spending 2 hours less a day. That's my proof. My mechanism will be one-on-one coaching, giving people a custom roadmap to reliably deter distractions from personal and business goals with continuous accountability and support. So if people resonate with that mechanism, I understand not everyone will, but if the people that I want to serve do resonate with that mechanism, then we'll be we'll be on board and be able to work with each other. But a keynote here, you do not find message resonance through a Google Doc, such as this one. You must go out into the world to establish resonance and see what hits. We can obsess about this for months and even years, but if we're not going out to people, like I mentioned before, to understand what it is they truly want, what is the outcome they want, what are the people that you're serving, what is their proof, what is their mechanism, they want to know what you can offer them, and you need to present it to them. You need to expose yourself to these people because the market won't reward you if you're just sitting behind on a Google Doc and behind a screen without doing anything about it. So that's a big note. What I've learned throughout this process, I noticed when I was communicating about my offer to people, some were a little confused on what I was really trying to help people with. So, example, I was like bouncing between I help solopreneurs overcome digital distractions, or I help solopreneurs who are struggling to focus online, or I help solopreneurs beat procrastination. If I'm not clear on my messaging, how can I expect my audience to understand either? So make it as simple as possible to the point where a 5-year-old can understand, and that you can communicate it effectively in any setting, in any conversation. It should be able to be copy and paste throughout any scenario. That's something I definitely have been working on. All right, to the launch sequence. When you first conduct a launch, you want to whisper before you shout. The reason behind this is that you want to create curiosity with people. You want them in a little sneak peek of what you have to offer. If you try to go in guns blazing before you even build up that curiosity, then chances are you're not going to have the successful launch that you want. And of course, there are many other factors along the way, which is why I'm going through this. Think about Alex Hormozi has been teasing his book $100 million money models 2 whole years before his actual launch, which is, as of this recording, is happening in a few weeks, and I'm excited to see that. Within this book, he was sneaking it in the background, purposefully adding curiosity for what's next before hitting people hard with a launch. Although most people don't need to go to that extreme, I'm just certainly not. Can't afford to, and that would just be overwhelming. But the thing is, he built curiosity in the beginning. Even when his $100 million Leads launch, which I was a part of, he was already hinting on his next book, which was already finished, mind you. The key here is just to build curiosity first before we shout. So I created several whisper posts that attracted some attention on threads. This also doubles as gaining message resonance, as posts are high leverage for audience building. So I can show you some examples of what I mean here. So I've helped solopreneurs take back control of their time from the screens. If I were to work with you, what would you want to help you? What would you want me to help you with? 5 likes. I reposted myself in 2 shares. Someone responded, love that. For me, it'd be setting healthier screen boundaries without feeling guilty. Here, I would just give a little value. Break one, something I definitely believe in, setting boundaries, something I've done myself as a quick, actionable way to do this is to keep your phone on focus mode by default. To ease into this better, you can customize your settings. I just give away a little bit of value. And then I give this as an opportunity to engage with them in the DMs. Another whisper post, a former Marine, helping solopreneurs take control of their attention online. If I could help you achieve one result, what would you want? So I had a little bit of engagement here, 6 likes, 1 share, some comments. This one hit me first. And then I did get a comment about this. I don't understand. How do you mean by take control of their attention? And this really opened my eyes to try to get good message resonance. Because like I said, if I'm not clear on my offer and who I'm sending my message out, how can I expect other people to be clear about it? That was important for me to understand. That was post launch, but definitely helpful to get that feedback. And then I said, any entrepreneurs struggling with digital burnout here? I'm just getting ideas. This is building curiosity. I'm sure most of them do. I'm not currently, but I certainly have, which is why I'm so intentional about taking time off. And I potentially help with this. I just get some engagement and get some eyeballs. And then this one did end up getting good results. Working on a project that will help so many solopreneurs take back control of their attention online, and anyone excited. 21 likes. I had 1 repost outside of my own, 2 shares, and quite a bit of engagement. So this definitely opened up some opportunity to engage with people. What I did here, like I said, when I see people liking or commenting my stuff, I make that as an opportunity to reach out to them and see if this is something that resonates with them personally. These are simply test posts to see what resonates, no fancy copy, just trying to see what sticks. And then next, I moved on to the launch post, and this will be your shout. This is after you build that curiosity and reveal more about what you're offering and lead them to the next step. So, launch post right here. You're not burned out, you're dope sick, but instead of heroin, you're hooked on notification. I was like trying to hooked them pretty well. Got 520 views, 13 likes, 3 reposts outside of my own, 1 share. Then it's basically a long form. Then as a call to action is want help implementing this. I just launched Momentum Mastery, 90-day experience, where I help you customize this entire system to your life, business, and brain. And then I add the scarcity and urgency behind it. So that's where I start to add the scarcity and urgency within my launch posts. And I also do this in my school community. Do all the whispers and shouts. I will be honest, if you are just seeing this right now, if you are not in part of my community, this my engagement is not the best. It is still a work in progress, but I would like to share with you what I did exactly. So this was something I did in my school community. The first whisper post, things feel different, something is in the air, something new is coming. And then I just tried to build more curiosity. I thought a word no one could see it, share my backstory, what specific problems are you facing. Sometimes it's out of my control. There are a lot of things out of my control within my school community, at least, to where I can try to influence engagement, but most of the time there are people that are even on school. My members don't often use the platform as nearly as often, or they have other communities that they're already engaged with, and it is what it is. But the purpose of this is just to continue doing the actions despite what results you get along the way. But now we're going to move on to outreach. This is the boring work that gets results. When you're trying to do a launch, combining both inbound and outbound will maximize your chances at having a successful launch. So think inbound like content, like I showed you before, paid ads, SEO. These are scalable things, but have pretty little impact per person or viewer. But if you do outbounds like DMs, email, text, carrier pigeon, these are the unscalable things, but have the highest impact per person. So we want to combine the two. You want to have that leverage of being able to make posts and build your audience along the way, and do outbound like the DMs, because you have a lot more control of them taking the next step within the DMs or email, text, however you reach out to them. Reach out to as many people as you can. By the time you finish your whisper post, once you build that curiosity, you want it to be loud. You want your launch to be as loud as possible. More than just a shout, more like a scream at the rooftops. And the simple goal from this outreach for me was to book more calls, because that's where I'm going to do the actual selling. Throughout my launch, I used my network audit that combined leads from my school community and follows on threads and outreach to them individually one by one. And I also DM'd people that engaged my whisper and launch posts to see if they personally resonated. Oftentimes, when they respond on the DMs, if they resonate, they'll say yes, they do. It does resonate with them, so that it opens up the conversation for more questions and to be able to dig in deeper. And I'll show like some of my KPIs for this. I throughout this whole launch, I did 209 DMs and emails, and then 153 follow-ups. Some of them were double follow-ups, even triple follow-ups, if I'm being honest. And while that might look like a lot to many, it's really not as much as you think, given the time horizon of a few weeks. If someone can send 100 DMs a day, the likelihood they will book more calls and get more sales is far greater than someone who can fathom only a few DMs a day. If you can sustain the volume each day for as long as you can, the chances of you succeeding are a lot easier than someone who could just do like 10 a day max. Of course, you want to have a sustainable way to do it. If you can't do 100 DMs a day, that's fine. Try to find a balance of where you can try to maximize the minimal potential you have. If you can just sustain 10 DMs a day, that's infinitely better than 0 DMs a day. Think about it that way. So what I learned throughout this process, I recognize I could have a tough time concentrating on outreach, as it can get boring, like I said. Other things can take up my attention and feel more interesting to do at the time, but that's simply an excuse I can get over. One thing that has helped me with this process was actually to go out for a walk and exercise before coming back to the task. When I went, there was one day where I went on an afternoon run, ran a few miles, and it gave me the energy and focus needed to crush about 41 DMs back to back without the need to divert my attention. I think this is very important to think, because if you're trying to do something that is taking up a lot of your attention and time, and it's hard to concentrate, look at your current situation and think, I need to probably step away for a bit. I need to like go for a walk, catch a breather. If you're trying to go from one task to another and you're trying to do like a lot of context switching, then your ability to focus on something that's important is gonna be very hard. You're gonna be losing minutes or even hours of focused concentration to do what's required. Essentially, going out for a walk for me, or even going out for a run or exercising before doing a hard task like this was very helpful. When doing outreach, I need to be better at steering the ship. What I mean by that is being able to take control of the conversation to understand the problems and in the process pre-qualify them to see if they're a good fit. And if I don't steer the ship or control the conversation, we can end up going off on a really big tangent of some random conversation that does not have anything to do with pre-qualifying them or transitioning them into the next step. So even though this is a volumes game, it's best to take the time to know a little bit about them and spark real conversation that also transitions them into, for example, this will be like sharing an intro post or like going first into the DMs of someone. Something that you can do, which is something that I needed to do more of, is do an introductory saying like, "Hey, I saw you hit $10,000 recently, bro. Congrats, good feeling, isn't it?" And something that I wouldn't suggest, and something I've definitely done many times before, is to say, "Hey man, how's it going?" That is the most generic thing you could ever say to someone in the DMs. Put some personalization into it because they're more likely to reply than to respond to someone who says a general, "Hey, how's it going?" And I've done that before, like so. I'm definitely guilty of this. As they follow up, use the AAA framework to direct the conversation. Acknowledge, add value, and then ask. So if they respond, "Yeah, I understand that. Fun, you should mention that when I was in that position, I yada yada yada." Now I'm curious, what do you believe is holding you back? Something along those lines. It just depends on how they respond to you. If they answer your question, you can continue applying this framework, acknowledging them, add value, and then asking them a clarifying question that leads them deeper in the conversation so that you can understand more of their problems and where they want to go. So I'll share an exact example of what I did to try and qualify someone in the DMs. Ultimately, didn't end up qualifying in the end, but it was still helpful to realize. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So this is like a pretty customized post. That there's no template involved. Hey Troy, Brandon from Threads, loved your post you made about your breaking points. I shared a little about a story about myself, and then we were able to follow up. Hey, what's up? Thanks for sharing enough. And then I acknowledged, I asked a question. Well, for me, it's been a roller coaster ride, saying positive though, but I'm glad you're holding up on strong. Have you been able to see success in the business, or are you still trying to still figuring that out so far? No success yet. Oh, gotcha. Sorry to hear that, man. What do you believe has been holding you back so far? So I'm trying to just probe and ask more questions along the way. This was in the span of a few days. While I was responding to other people, I was trying to get back with him when I could. By the end of it, I realized he was not qualified for what I could help him with. He was a parent and he had other things going on. And I said, that makes sense. Wish I had the answers for you in that specific case. As I'm not a parent myself, I do respect that you're doing everything that you can. So I acknowledge them and I send them off along the way. I could handle this a little bit better. What I could have done is ask them if there is anyone that they know that could use help with my uh, sort of offer, then hopefully they could give me a reference. So I can definitely handle these things better. I just wanted to show you an example of what I did there. So in terms of these sales calls, this was a big one. This is the thing that gets the money across the bridge, right? This is the ultimate thing. But this was a valuable learning experience for me. And what I did from it is, after making a bunch of posts and DMs, I booked a total of 8 calls by sending them a TidyCal link. If you have a calendar link, you could send that to them. I use TidyCal. You can use Calendly, and there's definitely some training on that on YouTube, I'm sure. So I also use the sales call tracker with Google Sheets to track these as well. And I'll show you that real quick. So I have the date for each person that I've reached out to and ended up booking a call with. So as you can see, the outcomes aren't as ideal, and I have several notes behind it. That was the results I had from those calls. No deal, no offer made, no deal, no deal, no offer made, canceled, no deal, no deal. Yeah, this is this reality of where I'm at right now in terms of the sales calls, because this is still very new to me, and I'm trying to get better at it as I go along. So what worked? Knowing that people were willing to come into the call made me realize that people were still interested in receiving help, even though I didn't necessarily close them. So something about my offer, something about what I could do to help people resonated, which is why they booked a call in the first place. So that was reassuring. But what didn't work? It's a lot. As like I said, I'm very new to sales calls. I'm still learning the process, and something that's mostly going to help this is by simply booking more calls and getting more reps. That's the biggest thing. Just getting more reps and getting exposed to the calls itself, so I can actually go through the whole process. Another thing is that I do have a sales script, admittedly, and I have an over reliance on it during the call, which weakens my ability to focus on to the prospect. And I think again, more reps are going to help this, because when you're first starting out, yeah, you want to have a good sales script to kind of reference off. It's not going to be perfect where you're going to be able to reference it 100%. It's just a guideline, and this is something I need to understand more of. It's just a guideline. It's not something that is going to be strictly word for word, because conversation is going to divert one way or another. Every person is going to be different. You got to understand how to balance the script with the conversation. And if it's something that's diverting your attention from the focus of the conversation, then it's best to focus more in on the conversation first than to rely on a script. Another thing I do struggle with a lot is eye contact. Looking into the camera more, basically. So, like right now, probably as I'm recording this video, I've been looking into this Google Doc and not really looking into looking into the camera as much. So definitely, when I'm getting into a sales call, especially, I want to be able to look into the camera so I could actually make eye contact with the person I'm talking with. One thing I did notice for this as well, for the next part, I don't often dig into the pain. When you're trying to understand their current situation, their problems, sometimes we can go surface level and not go any further than the surface. As hard as it is to do, I think it's really important to dive into the emotional aspect of it, and sometimes even make them cry and dig into the pain of realizing what their current situation is. It's not that you want to inflict pain on them. It's that you want to understand their core desires and their core issues. You need to dig in so that you're more able to help them out throughout the call. And something I can also struggle with is not letting them envision the outcome they desire. So selling the vacation, basically selling them Maui or Hawaii, I need to let them see the outcome, see that transformation, that A to B transformation. So they'll be more excited. They'll be more joyed to see what you have to offer to help them in their situation, and see the A to B out transformation that they can get out from it. So yeah, another thing for me is a lack of objection handling, and or not handling them well. I noticed a lot of my objections were money related, finances, and that's basically the most common one. And while most did have legitimate concerns about finances, I knew I could handle them better. Basically, whenever they presented like a money situation, it's like, oh, I'm in debt, I can't really afford it, it seems like a lot, there's a steep investment, etc. I wouldn't really follow through the objection handling process, right? And I'm gonna dive into that more. What I learned: book more calls, get more reps. That's the thing. That's the thing about it. I don't become better by consuming more content on sales. I get better by actually getting on the calls and selling. That's that's basically it. And the sooner I can get to those objections, like I mentioned before, and handle them before even dropping the price, the smoother the call can go. So as part of the objection handling process, the ideal way to do it is, like I mentioned in the DM process, where you follow that AAA framework of acknowledge, add, and ask. You want to acknowledge their objection. You want to add to their objection, and then you want to ask a clarifying question to understand more of their situation. So if a lead says, "Yeah, I'm not in the best financial situation right now. Maybe in the future," you know, something you could say would be, "100%, man. I totally get that. Definitely don't want to put you in any financial pressure." Now, just for clarity, finance is out of the question. What else would hold you back from joining something like this? You want to be able to isolate the objection and understand, like, if there's no other objections within it, because sometimes people will say one objection, and if you can handle it properly, you could, if you isolate it, you could, like, if that's the only thing that is holding them back, then you'll be able to handle that specifically. If they say anything else, like, "Oh, I don't think it's the right time. I don't think it's I need to talk to my spouse about this," then they're presenting more objections, and then you're handling those specific objections one by one. You don't want to handle so many objections all at once. You want to isolate and then go into one objection at a time and handle it from there. And some objections can be smokescreens to what the real objection is. And the most common one is often, "I need to think about it." So the ideal way is to redirect the conversation to where you find the real objection. So you follow that framework of acknowledging and adding to the objection and asking. This has been everything I've learned so far from this launch. If there are any other questions that you have for me, leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear more about how you guys go throughout your own launch process. If you've done a successful launch yourself, I'd definitely love feedback. And if there's anything else I'm missing, I'm sure I have missed some things. There's only so many things to touch on within this, but this is, for the most part, everything that I've learned uh, throughout this launch process, so that I will more likely to be successful within my next one. Hopefully, this was helpful for y'all, and I will see you guys later in a new video. Hopefully, I will catch y'all soon. Peace.